Perfect.
Okay.
Welcome, Alicia. Again, welcome, James, and welcome, Joe. And Dr. Gordon Medlock, so good to have you here with us today.
Good to be
So
here.
this is Career Lab. We gather every Wednesday from noon to 1 p.m. Central Time to support folks in their career development, career transitions. We take all questions career related. And I'll share a little bit about our topic today, but I do want to underline that whatever's on your heart, whatever questions you have, that we want you getting in and getting you supported with that. So it doesn't have to relate to the topic, but it tends to kind of usually magically sort of relate to the topic anyway. So we're looking at, welcome, Samantha, good to have you back. We are looking at powerful questions. And what is that? And that we kind of had that come up from last week as when we were talking about interviewing, and even when getting into what is really important to me in my career, what matters, asking myself questions that kind of help move me forward, asking, being able to ask powerful questions in interviews. That's one of the strategies that we look at, is they're asking you questions, but what do you really want to know? And how do you ask a meaningful question to them that shows them that you are interested in the company, that you've done research, and that you're really thinking about it? And you might even ask powerful questions that help them look at the position from a different angle. And once you're doing that, then it can actually open up a dialogue such that now you're having that in-depth conversation in a way that it's like you're already starting to work there. So that's kind of our, Dr. Gordon Medlock has talked about this before, where if you're sitting at a round table, you start off on either end of that round table, interviewer, interviewee. And as you ask powerful questions, it's like you're moving, inching around that table until at the end, you're both looking at the job position together and talking about it. It's kind of like you already work there then. So powerful questions are super helpful in helping people really think about what's going on. What are the needs? And again, whether you're using powerful questions in an interview, or if you are looking at yourself and what you want to create for yourself in your career, maybe asking yourself powerful questions, or teeing up other people to help you investigate what really matters to you. So with that, Dr. Medlock, it's so great to have you here. And I'd like you to share just a little bit what your approach is, what our approach is overall to our careers, and getting the most out of life that we can. And I think that'll help kind of set a broader context for us here today.
Well, thank you. First of all, I just want to underline your introduction, George Donald. I think you really have hit it on the nail on the head in terms of why empowering questions are important, and both looking at yourself and in managing the interview. So I'll just underline a bit of what you were saying, because I think you're really right on target for our group today. The thing I would add is that one of the things that we hold in the context is you're a net giver in all of your interactions in your career development. And to do that, you need to take the time to understand the person you're interviewing with or networking with. What are their situations? What are their problems? What are their challenges? And all of that requires an ability to listen to them and to ask empowering questions to clarify what matters to them. So you are in charge of every aspect of your job search, from where you choose to focus your attention, what matters to you, what organizations you want to work for, and how you want to contribute to those organizations. So it flips the normal perspective, which so often people feel like, oh, they've got all the power, they're the one that holds the job, I'm just here to kind of do my dog and pony show and hope they decide to pin a blue ribbon on me. So it's just a very different context to see you as the author of your own job search, your own networking, your own career development, and to be engaging in that way. So I'm just going to leave it at that for now, GD, as a way to kind of lay the groundwork for people, and let's just see what's resonating for them around that topic, if that's of interest.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Medlock. So anybody who's joined in here on Zoom, thank you so much. We love that. It makes it really easy for direct coaching. So you can come off mute, ask us questions, or you can type a question into the chat. And for those of you who are only able to join in on LinkedIn Live, go ahead and type your questions into the comment section there. And our lovely assistant, Jane Coletto, will make sure that we see those over here on this end. And if we don't get to them today, we'll keep connected with you through the week to get to your questions. But so anybody who is here, Carrie, Rihanna, Ito, welcome, Alicia, Samantha, Scott, Joe, what questions do you have? How can we serve you today? I know you might not have been quite prepared for being put on the spot, but if you're able to, you can come off mute and let us know.
Well, George, if I can start.
Yeah.
Excellent topic for today, being that I'm in the final four running for the HPD police chief of police, which the decision will be made next week Wednesday.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and
Joe.
I appreciate George and Dr. Wright, all your help in getting me this far and providing things. And so what?
Joe, will you share how long you've been at it?
This started last June, so it's been a while. It took them a few months to identify a business or a contractor to run an assessment. We did a 3-day, we did a 4-hour written test. Handwriting for 4 hours is a challenging event, answering 10 questions. And then based on that, they narrowed it down to 4. The 4 of us went to a 3-day assessment with both oral and written exercises in those 3 days. And then, they were by prominent leaders within the city and county that were the assessment teams that were grading us. The 4 of us in our answers. And then now we're going to do a televised, not a debate, but a televised answer questions from the public tomorrow night. And then we're going to do private, one-on-one meetings with the commissioners. And then Monday, we do the final commissioner meeting. And then a decision will be made.
Wow.
But
Yeah. So can you also, just for people who may not be aware of, what community are you talking about being, is this position for? Just so they have a little bit of a context for that.
So the Honolulu Police Department makes up the entire island of Oahu. It's about 950,000 people. It's rural and city. So it's out here in the middle of the Pacific, but it's one island. There's 4 counties that make up the state, and each county has its own police department. So I would be the police chief for the sitting county of Honolulu, working for the police commission, who gets to hire and fire the police chief. You don't directly work for the mayor, but the mayor is the CEO of the city. So in essence, you do. And I look at the Honolulu Police Commission as the board of directors. So they're my eyes and ears and tell me, or give me ideas of what the community is doing and how we can both work together to serve and protect.
Thank you. So there's a lot of challenges, including diversity challenges there too, I'm sure is an important theme in that context as well. So we'd like to hear what questions you have and how you feel about some of the questions you may get from the populace as you're in front of cameras on an open civic discussion. It's really quite exciting and a chance to really have an impact.
Yeah, I think for us, some of the tough questions they're going to ask are, we have a recruiting, I guess we're slowed down on recruiting issues. We're 300 and some odd positions short right now in the department, but we've always been short. There's never been a police chief that hasn't had, 100 people vacancies and working to fill those. Our recruiting pool is, the 18 to 24-year-olds that are, in and around the city and county of Honolulu that have stayed on Oahu and didn't travel to the mainland to go to school. So the pool is rather small, and can they pass the rigorous physical and mental agilities that you need to be a police officer? So that's part of it. The other question is going to be, how are we doing with, is there racism in our police department? You mentioned diversity. We're population-wise 40% Asians. We're 20% Caucasians, 17% Hawaiians, part Hawaiians, or multi-racial. And then we have other people from there in smaller amounts, 2 and 3%. So our population is diverse. And so do we, is there racism in the police department? Honestly, I don't think policemen wake up every morning saying, I've got to arrest this nationality of people. I want to make sure I engage. But are we overrepresented in the criminal justice system by Hawaiians and part Hawaiians? Absolutely. They make up 40% of our incarceration rate. So that's a criminal justice issue, not necessarily a law enforcement issue. But how can we in law enforcement help that and help reduce that through the community? The community, a lot of times people say, well, the police department, you guys, you got to help, you got to do your part. And we do, but what we're lacking is the community doing its part. These people come from the community. Criminals don't just pop up out of nowhere. They come out of the community. So what is the community doing to help itself? Perhaps redirect, help assist with and identifying criminal activity and saying, hey, what can we do together, whether faith-based, through entrepreneurship or through philanthropy, to help provide venues for the younger generation to find other ways to express themselves besides committing crime.
So Joe, thank you for that. I get a sense of the importance of that. If I'm imagining myself on the telephone now on the TV show, and I'm going to say, well, Joe, what though specifically can the police department do to help with this issue? How would you respond to that?
To the diversity or racism issue, or
to the heavy incarceration imbalance as you're seeing it with the Hawaiian group, and what can you do, or what can the police department do to bring more equity to that process?
So I think years ago we used to have the Police Activities League and other community organizations that would either strike up boxing, basketball, and other sports and other activities to keep juveniles, the young 16, 17, 18-year-old engaged and away from criminal activity, keep them away from that type of environment and get them into sports or get them interested in the police department, get into the high schools. We have an Explorer program, which is kind of similar to like a Boy Scout, Girl Scout program, where we bring them into the department. They volunteer for different activities. We give them a uniform, and they help us at events and things to understand what law enforcement is. And I think also we need to get into the high schools again. We used to be in high schools extensively, but not just to show our, SWAT team repelling out of a helicopter with a dog. Those are nice to see things, but I think more importantly to teach high school and middle school kids, hey, this is law enforcement. Law enforcement is a great career opportunity. It's a fantastic profession to be in. And so to get them interested, now at the younger age of what law enforcement is, and it's not what you see on television. It's 90% boredom and 10% action. But you got to always be ready for that 10% because that's what's going to harm you, or you're going to have to make a life or death situation. So you better be prepared.
Thank you. Very good answer. Very credible. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Very moving. Thank you. So what are the questions you're most uncomfortable getting that you want to make sure you're ready for?
I don't think I think I'm prepared for everything. I've reviewed all the policies, procedures. I was a policeman for 20 years. I have been out of the Honolulu Police Department for the past 20 years, being a member of the military. I'm the only candidate that comes with 5 years of extensive executive leadership at the top of the state government. I was a member of the governor's cabinet, was appointed by him I ran a department twice the size of HPD. Budget-wise, comparable. The mission slightly different. But I have all that experience. I've hired, I've fired, I've reprimanded, I've promoted. I've done all those things that the police chief has to do. And I've done all the community engagements I need to do. So I think I'm ready. There might be nuances within the department, like internal auditing or things that I may not have a full grasp on, but I think I conceptually understand everything. Being I'm Caucasian, I make up the 20% of the population. If racism is an issue, you know, there are things that I went through growing up in Hawaii that's racist, but you know, you drive on and you work through the issues, and you don't let those things bother you. You can't do anything about it. Now I have an opportunity to get the diversity of our population together and work towards a common goal of being serving and protecting and making sure that we as a police department earn the trust. We kind of lost that over the last couple of years with some internal things that happen, and externally. It doesn't help when a former police chief is in federal penitentiary for doing something they shouldn't have done. And we've had another police chief quit. And so there are some internal issues, but they're all workable. And it's just getting trust built with within the organization, and then externally with the community that we serve.
Thank you.
So, Joe, I mean, this is significant stuff in building trust. And, you know, if somebody's asking a question, I mean, and I think I liked hearing you acknowledge the last police, I forget the specifics of it, but like, hey, you know, did something they shouldn't have done. And I'm also kind of picturing back to what we were talking about before we officially started here, about what you were sharing about how things are distributed through Hawaii and how you really are an island. I mean, it's obvious, but the implications of that you are all there and in a sense have to work together. I mean, sure, we can say that about the globe too, but I feel like there's a significant kind of setting context that you might be able to do for everybody around the vulnerabilities that you face there.
Yeah, so Hawaii, we're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. There's not another state or country or nation within 2,500 miles. So we're about 4.5, 6 hours away from any other populated area to get to us by airplane. By ship, you're talking 3, 4, 5 to a week long before that gets there. We are, in all intents and purposes, I call us a gated community because we are, the only way in here is by boat or by airplane. And so you can't swim here. I mean, you could try, but highly unlikely. You could sail here on a boat. You could row here on a canoe or other things. That's how the Hawaiian arrived in Hawaii pre-1500s through Polynesians sailing, looking for other places to expand, and found Hawaii. And so because it's in the middle of the Pacific, we have a very unique problem set in that, you know, commodities that come to Hawaii that we buy at Costco's and stores, Safeways and supermarkets and department stores all come by ship. And that comes from California. So it's kind of a single point of failure. So we have to ensure that is always protected and remains. Now that's a state issue more so than a county, but it's right here in the City County of Honolulu. We are the center of gravity for the entire state as the capital and the single point where all the commodities come into the harbor. And so we take that very seriously. We also have a very large military presence here with 4 stars that command the Pacific areas, whether by land, sea, or air. And so that's extremely important too. And we have to make sure that one, the city provides services to them so they can operate, but 2, that we're out here protecting and serving that community also so that they can do what they need to do to keep the nation safe and secure.
Okay.
We wish you the best of luck.
Yep.
Certainly have a history behind you of service and accomplishment, and we wish you well. I think the state will be and the county will be well served by your leadership. I hope. Wish you the best.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you, George.
Yes. Sending you prayers on it. Looking forward to hearing from you next week. And if not next week, because you'll be busy, it might be 2 weeks.
And just to let our rest of our group know, you can see the level of preparation that's going into this for Joe. This is a campaign that he's been managing for the last year plus, actually in some ways preparing his whole career for this. So there's a cumulative build on everything he's done. And this is a good model for each of you to look at how your career develops. It may not always be as linear or as directed or as focused as Joe's, but that there's a cumulative story of his service that leads to this being really the perfect next job for him. So each of you in your own way needs to craft your own story that fits for your next right position. And I think that's a good role model for all of us.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Medlock, for
Yeah,
underlining that. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I think Scott had a chat in there that talked about being anxious or nervous. Trust me, my butterflies and everything get flying around. And I've done public speaking. I've been in front of the television. I've been in front of the media with an adverse incident happened in the state, and we were just getting hounded by questions after question after question. And we had to defend ourselves and admit that we made a mistake, and we're doing everything to fix it. And so I've done commencement speeches that are probably scarier than some of the media things I've done because of the size of the crowd. And I always get nervous, and my wife helps me understand where I fidget, and so that I don't expose the fidget, but that's my way of internally controlling my anxiety and my fear.
Sure.
But I think I need that fear to get in there and be myself, be honest, which, I mean, it is redundant. Every time I speak, I'm always from my heart. And I think that's where I come from. And so I think having that fear is actually a benefit for me.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you, Joe. It just reminded me of the story of JFK, you know, how well he presented on screen and in public. And somebody shared that once they got to see his hands under the podium and they just saw, he was just absolutely terrified, but also knew that he, you know, needed with how he was going to present himself. So
yeah, I have a tendency to grab my wedding ring and I twist it on my finger. And so that's my way of controlling my anxiety and my.
There you go.
But it keeps you grounded. It keeps your brain
Yeah.
settled in, and so you can think and you can answer the questions.
Right.
That's also a tell, like your poker face.
Yeah, right.
People are watching. People are watching your tells. So
totally. Well, thank you so much, Joe. Scott, I want to hear from you in this. Say more about what you're wanting and how we can help you today.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I was just curious, you were looking for questions, and I just wanted to get a healthy, realistic, and maybe up-to-date approach with respect to mental health and how people psych themselves out or psych themselves up for an interview. You know, I sometimes have conversations with people that have nerves, and my advice is that that's normal. That anxiety and just that fear of making a mistake is very normal, unless you're untethered. Maybe you have some kind of psychosis like narcissistic personality disorder or some kind of maybe undiagnosed psychosis. Those people usually aren't afraid because they don't have the same healthy respect for fear. So I would just want to know, like, your best approach for handling nerves. I think being authentic and genuine is endearing and a great approach, because we're humans hiring humans, right? And if your hand never shakes, maybe you weren't that interested. Maybe you had no fear of losing the opportunity or the chance. So just given that in mind, what would be your best approach for people to calm themselves and deliver their best, to be poised instead of, like shaking
So,
JFK's.
Dr. Medlock,
Jump on this one.
do you
I'd
have
like
a
to-
response here?
Yeah, I'd like to jump on this one because the best thing you can do is to prepare adequately for the event. It's like an interview is a performance of sorts. It's got its own ground rules. It's what's being expected, and kind of knowing the game, practicing with a friend, getting it rehearsed, make sure you got your main points down. It's like you wouldn't expect a football player or basketball player to come on the stage with 1,000, 10,000 people in the stage without having practiced, right? They've all been practicing every day for 20 years to be on that field. So it really, because our brains get attenuated. You're dealing with anxiety situations, so you get the more you get acclimated, practicing comfort level with handling difficult questions, the better prepared you'll be. And at the end of the day, you want to be prepared so that you can be your best authentic self. I like your point. You want to show up as you. And the truth is, you can get hijacked if you're not prepared or thrown off or too scared, and they don't get your best self in the room. So there's nothing like preparation, and that's just for you being, having your reason for being there, the tough questions you're anticipating to answer, having those ready. One of the best preparations is if you've got to come up, if you're going to get a question like, let's say you've been jumping from job to job in somebody's perception, they're going to ask, why have you changed so many positions in the last 5 years or whatever? If you know that question's coming, you want to have that just be like butter coming right, just smooth as butter. Here's the story. You get it handled in a way that doesn't raise any disturbing questions for anybody. It's not too lengthy, and it reorients you back to the present of what's the job you're looking for rather than the history. So there are a lot of techniques like that, but it's really anticipating, preparing, and then being able to, in the moment, kind of be with all of you in the moment, including the butterflies and the excitement, and just be willing to be present and to be at the flow of what's happening between you and the interviewer in the moment, and being as present as possible to that. So in a sense, what I've just described is a tall order. This is why we teach social emotional intelligence. This is why we do trainings on this. It's all about doing exactly what you're describing, both the performance side, but also the presence and authenticity piece of how to be in the moment with others. So
Totally. Dr. Medlock, thank you. Thank you so much for that. And I want to break it down into using one of the tools that we use at Right Foundation, the Evelating model. So let's see if I can do this. Because one of the things, Scott, that if you're working with people and they're worried about their nerves, the first thing that came up in mind was, I don't know if you ever saw that Hair clip from the musical, where the woman says to the guy, she says, "You've got a lot of nerve." And he says, "Why, thank you, I do." And he starts to sing, "I got life, mama. I got free." And he goes through the whole thing. He's like, "I got my blood, I got my bones, I got my nerves, I got my," and so he's just affirming himself and just his existence. And so instead of saying like, "Oh shit, oh crap, there's something wrong with me," for feeling afraid, it's like, of course I feel afraid. It's like, Joe, it's like, of course what you said, Joe, of course I'm nervous. Of course that's happening. I have feelings. And what you're saying about like with a sociopath, it's like, that's the problem, is where you're disconnected with it. And then to Dr. Medlock's point is like, okay, great. So now what do I do with that? So if I'm feeling nervous about an upcoming interview, the helpful thing to do is to prepare. That my nerves, my body, myself is telling me, get ready, do what you can do. It's sort of like if the winter's coming and I don't have food and stuff, it's like, okay, get ready for the winter, store things away. And so this process that I'm going to share here is called the Evelating model. We're not going to go into the whole thing. I've referred to this before on this program, but basically we're just going to look at yearning and engaging. And so what happens is we've got an interview coming up, and if I just stay stuck in worrying about it and not doing anything, not taking steps to prepare, not talking to friends, not jumping into Career Lab to get prepared, then I'm likely I'm not going to do as well as I could. But if I engage, this right here, this first phase of Evolating, which is continual transformation, continual learning and growing, simply engaging, then I start to get the data. That will start to tie back to me about what my yearnings are in the job. It's security. I want security. I want connection and a place of meaningful employment. I want to know I can contribute. And just by doing these first things here, engaging, we'll be more in touch with our yearnings. We'll have more impact in how we share ourselves in the interview or in any challenging conversation. So that's all we're going to get into on that today. We go way further into that in the More Life training, which we have one coming up soon, June 3rd and 4th. This is a fantastic training where we do a deep dive into social and emotional intelligence. We work the whole Evolating model. And as I know Samantha's on her way to that, and many of you here have done that in the past, but for those of you who haven't, it's a fantastic training. A lot of coaches, lawyers, therapists use it to get CEUs and to deepen their own practice. So would love to see you there. If you're coming, let me know. I'll try to get you on my team. And Jane, yeah, go ahead and share that link for everybody. We've got a few people wanting to know about that. Thank you.
All right, can I ask one question about that? And I apologize for being off camera. So,
Totally.
this
That's
is
great,
Samantha.
Samantha. Thanks for
You know how
jumping
I
in.
am. So I have the book and everything. Someone keeps calling me to tell me to confirm, but they like to call me when I'm in the gym at night, and I keep forgetting to call the person back. Do I call the person back? Because they leave me a message that says like,
Oh, I say just text them.
I mean, it's someone from your office, and I'm not trying to be rude, but it's also like they're calling me when I'm at the gym, and I can't answer the phone at the gym because the gym has a strict policy about that I can't answer.
So Samantha, can you text them?
Probably, but I always feel rude about texting someone back. Like,
I get you, Samantha, totally. But this has shifted hugely.
I just like to be professional because, like, if I text a
Absolutely.
colleague, I know them in real life, so I don't feel bad. But like even if
No,
you
this
text, like,
is
I've met you
actually
in
Samantha.
Zoom, but
Thanks for bringing this up. I want to just say this to address this across the board. The way that I kind of do it is I'm always paying attention to how people like are comfortable with things. Like some people will only respond to me via email. Some people will only do text message. Some people will only do phone calls. But for this kind of thing, and for most people, text message is going to be okay. I like it when somebody calls me. It takes a long time for me to go in and listen to the voicemail. I have to say, you have so many messages, blah, blah. And it's just kind of a pain in my butt. So I actually really appreciate it if somebody calls me and they don't even need to leave a voicemail, but just texts and says, hey, can't talk now, or hey, I'm calling about this. So I just get that little piece of information and it helps me stay in touch and get back to them. That is most of the time, that's going to be the way to go, Samantha. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. So I literally just did respond back to Caitlin because I feel bad. I don't want her to think that I'm not interested. It's just,
Yeah.
like,
Totally. No, it's just communication stuff.
Just give her a good time to call back. Tell her, yeah, try me at 3 o'clock today or something like that.
well, that's the problem. I don't necessarily like on a daily basis. I can tell you that most days after 5, but if I get to the gym and like you understand, like George,
So Samantha, I don't want to spend more time on this.
do I, is it someone that, do I need to talk to her ahead of time or can I just attend the event? That's probably the better question.
You could ask her that too.
All right.
Yep, you can just send her a text message. Hey, do I need to do this? And you might even be able to do everything that she wants online and just say, oh, here, I submitted the forms, etc.
Okay, thank you so much.
Look it up.
You bet. Sebastiano and Sakti, welcome. So I want to do a quick room reset. This is Career Lab Wednesday. We're here every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. We've been talking about powerful questions. We have Joe, who is going into a final round of a very big interview, sending him blessings. And we are also looking at how to harness our anxiety, our fear in interviews and reaching out and connecting. Thank you, Scott, so much for that question, because that's something that we're all working with. Unless we're numb to our feelings, we will find anxiety, and it's about how we use it. So again, everybody, if you have questions, you can, like Scott, jump in on video. That is the best way to do it, to engage that way. If you're unable to, you can, if you're watching from LinkedIn Live, type your questions into the comments there, and Jane Coletta will get those over to us. So Scott, what do you got?
I would just like to say thank you for reinforcing that practice and preparation helps. I mean, because when you know you got it, right? When you've worked hard, you got it. You have confidence then. You reduce anxiety then. So I like that approach. It usually doesn't work out if the first time you hear yourself answering a question or saying it is in the interview. You'll have no idea how it will land.
Yeah.
Right. So if you don't practice, you probably won't perform at your best. But I guess I would say that I distract people. I ask them, well, how do you know that you even want to work there? You need to come up with at least 5 to 10 good questions about the company and the job that shows that you've done the research to qualify yourself as being interested and engaged in it even before. And
That's a great point.
Because when you ask great questions, like you guys were talking about, when you ask great questions, like you already work here, they'll show that you've prepared. They'll know that you've prepared. It will shine through. And then you can also you can let them know. I hope that you like me. It's been great meeting with you. I've tried to determine if I'd like to also work here. And you work with tact and grace a little bit more, obviously delivering that message. I haven't interviewed in a long time.
So are you an interviewer? Are you a hiring manager? Is that your role, or are you looking for work?
I'm usually a consultant hired with the hiring process of Fortune 500 company.
Gotcha. So you actually are doing the interviewing or facilitating the interviewing of people and qualifying them.
Yes.
Great to have you here. That's a very valuable perspective for everybody to hear. So I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, sweet. So I would love to hear from Brianna and Sebastiano on any updates and help support that you could get from the group. And anybody for that matter, but I've spoken with both of you recently.
I guess I can just jump in.
Sure.
Yeah, so I guess I just jumped on this call and I instantly hear that the conversation is about interviewing and the interview process and really the kind of the confidence process and that kind of thing. And I think one thing that I've historically struggled with in this process is that interest in the company. There's something of a kind of me just like, okay, let me just I'm so focused on just getting the physical like paperwork in that I don't put in the care and the kind of actually absorbing what that position is, absorbing what I can do in the position besides it being just like a career and that kind of stuff. So I'm wondering what like people's like suggestions when it comes to kind of that research that research aspect could be of kind of the researching into like what the positions are and preparing for that part of the interview and that kind of sharing of interests in the interview process and kind of looking for jobs that I can satisfy and that could satisfy me in that reciprocal.
Well, I think, Sebastian, I think what Scott was saying is really important. The more you've researched the company you're looking at, what do you know about them? Talking to people who maybe know more about that company. What are the challenges they're having? What are their concerns? Why is this position available? What's the concern? Why did the person leave? The more you understand about the company and how you think you can help, the stronger your interview will be. So it's absolutely smart to interview and research. You've got the internet gives you all kinds of access. if you know anybody who knows anybody kind of thing, if you can get inside behind the scenes to know a little bit about what the challenges they're facing, anything you can do to do research on it. And there are also databases you can explore. I haven't been close to those recently, but I'm blanking on the name of it now, but there's just basically every company has a profile in which you can look at how's their economics, how are they doing in terms of their fiscal situation, sales, what are the challenges they're facing in this market, whatever it is, the more information, any news articles about them, very helpful. You can usually do this pretty quickly. It's not like you got to spend hours at this, just enough so that you've shown that you've got an interest in them. And also, do they meet your criteria for what you're looking for? Is this an employer of choice? Is this something that really treats their employees well? Have you done the screening on that? So you can say, part of why I'm on this call is because I know you guys have been acknowledged as employers of choice, and I like your policies on X, Y, or Z. And now my questions are about, whatever. So you just automatically let them know you've researched them, you care enough about where you're going to land next to be talking to them. So that's just really important. It's a good question.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that's super helpful.
Thank you, Sebastiano. And Scott, is there anything that you would want to add to that?
No, I think that sounds great. I think you addressed that well. Thank you so much.
Cool. Well, Rihanna, I see you there.
I don't know if I have any specific questions at the moment. It's a lot of kind of taking this all in because I don't know how quite ready I'm there to start interviewing, but I do appreciate the information that Scott provided with, starting to look into these different companies and coming up with those different kind of questions while going into the interview. That's been very helpful at this point.
Good.
Fantastic. So one of the things that I want to share too, as we were talking this morning, Rihanna, is if you are working on your resume or your LinkedIn profile, we won't necessarily go into all of that today, but we've talked about this before around bullet points, powerful bullet points that show the situation, the task you did, what you did, and the result that you got. And so if you want more support with that, I want to just be getting these links out for people. We do put this up on YouTube. So there is a YouTube playlist where you can go back in and look at a resume, one that we did with Brenda Bernstein, and a LinkedIn profile one that we did with Brenda Bernstein. So you're able to go back in, find the specific questions you have about the different sections of your resume and LinkedIn profile, and see what she was recommending there, as well as we were working real time with people, so you can look at other people's resumes and LinkedIn profiles and get ideas for your own. So that's just a tool that you can use for harnessing your anxiety towards preparation.
Good call on that. And Brenda's a great resource also for those skills. We've had her present before and probably bring her back again. So.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Is this group in here networked together?
A good question.
Are the people in this room networked, and are you networking? Because the jobs that are left over are the ones that get posted, right? The great jobs are usually filled by someone internal or someone they know that's a good fit. The rest are what we get to apply for later. So I'm just curious, is this group connected, and are you networking?
Good question. And you're not saying just among each other, but in their own networks themselves. Is that what you're saying?
Both.
Yeah, both. Okay.
I think that I am, but I think that is a powerful question right there, Scott. And I kind of want people to digest it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I would just say that, my fiance, she trusts me. She trusts the process. She had put in her papers to resign as a general manager. She had some things come up, and she left early, right? So she put in her resignation Friday, right? So she was looking for a job for less than 48 hours. She had 3 interviews scheduled and she got a job offer yesterday. And it was just by someone that knew her the situation, and knew what she was capable of, and knew why she left where she was at, like wanting work-life balance, wanting to be able to see family, friends, children, normal human things, right? She was snatched up in less than 48 hours from when she started putting applications in, because she was real and authentic.
That is great. And that's such a great point. If you're the secret to really effective career development is be networking all the time, so that you've got your and not only that, but not just networking when you need something, but also helping others, reaching out, building that network together. So when you're ready to make a move, you've got a bunch of people already say, we want to support you. So it's not just in the urgency of, okay, I got to get a job now, but really an ongoing process of building that professional network, personal network in your lives, and again, be a net giver. And congratulations on your wife's quick transition. That's a great story.
Thank you very much.
Or
I'd say
fiance, I guess. Fiance.
the stars align, because she had to cancel 3 interviews this morning that were scheduled for the rest of the week.
Wow.
So that's the kind of positional power and poise I would want for anyone that's looking to change their life. And I would just say, she's been working on wanting this for years, right? She just finally had enough. For the 3rd time this year, she had to cancel her weekend with her children because the schedule wouldn't allow for her to be with them. And when her ex-husband had an attitude and threatened to call the lawyer on her, she's like, go for it. Call the lawyer under the circumstances, because, you have to be available for your children. And if you're not in a great situation where someone tries to make you look bad, she can say, look, I resigned from that position to put my children first. I now have a position. It didn't even take me, 2 days to find a new job. So I'm out of that. No one could question her integrity, her intent, or her values. So sorry to speak.
No, this is beautiful. One of the things I'm seeing here, and I want everybody to know, you can go back into Jean Coletto is going to be putting everything in this chat back in the comment section of this event. So I love that you're putting in your LinkedIn, Scott. And I recommend everybody follow your lead there and put in your LinkedIn profile and what you're looking for. Sebastiano, Rihanna, kind of where you're at in the process. James, what you're looking for. Sebastiano, I think you should share about the one thing that you were telling me about, the position that you're really excited about, and it's a stretch, and it's going to be a competitive thing, but I think you should just share about that.
Yeah. So last week, I'm recently I'm in the process of looking for a new job after my previous position as a social media but social media content creator, which was my first job out of school. And last week I applied for a job as a learning specialist for the Shedd Aquarium, which will be someone who would be helping facilitate learning programs and that kind of stuff. And I don't have the professional accolades for it. I'm straight out of school, and I didn't go into ecology or museum sciences and anything like that. But I really applied for the job based on my love of the Shedd Aquarium and of just natural science, and my theatrical background and my love of presenting and that kind of stuff. I'm well known amongst my friends and family for just giving them tours of the aquarium whenever I go. So really, that's what I tried to work on selling, is that part of just the enthusiast hobbyist in me, who has the capability of presenting in large crowds, presenting classroom style situations, even if it is only in a hobby thing. So yeah, that's the position that I recently applied for, and fingers crossed I can get an interview or something like that.
I will bet you get an interview on that.
Thank you. Here's hoping. So
fantastic. And so, Scott, to your point, like now we all know, Sebastiano, what you're looking for. It's an interesting thing. It's specific. And so everybody can kind of hold that. And one of the things that we often share about is if I'm reaching out to people and saying, hey, I'm interested in this, or I'm interested, can you think of anything or anybody in your network that would be a great introduction for me, given that I want to make this kind of move here? And then to also say, and I know it takes me sometimes a little bit of time to process a request, because now I'm kind of thinking about you. So I'm going to circle back with you in a week or 2 weeks or something and ask you about this again and see if anybody has come to mind. Because oftentimes when somebody makes a request of me like that, I love helping people. I love making connections, but I don't remember it all in the moment, or I won't think of the right people. And I'm so upset. I was like 3 days behind on one connection. Somebody sent me a position that they were like, hey, do you know anybody who would want in this? And Tiffany, I was so pissed when I was a few days late in getting that to you. But that's the kind of thing. So it's like, actually, if you're looking for something, it's just quick reminders to people of, here's what I'm looking for, just putting this back at the top of your inbox. I'll circle back with you. People like to help. We've talked about that book before. Well, I'm not going to get into that right now because we got to start wrapping up. We got 9 minutes. So anyway, great. Samantha, there's your LinkedIn. Fantastic. Thank you. Oh, so you're asking about personality assessments, Scott.
Oh, yeah, I would just ask, and Fortune 500 companies use different sets of tools to know exactly what they're getting even before they have candidates into the interview. I'm just curious if anyone's doing that. I know that my fiance had to do one of those, and we advertise her results. We use DISC for behavior, the values index for motivations and drivers, and attribute index for skills and talents. People sometimes present their data and then they're asked to use the same tools again. And a woman asked me, she wanted to know, why would they want me to take it again? And I said, well, what's the rest of the story? You're not telling them any of your internal dimensions. They don't know what your self-esteem looks like. They don't know if you believe in yourself. It was just one thing that came up, because people will talk about themselves. I would say, if you don't have an assessment, you can answer questions like, I think I'd be a good fit, or I feel I'd be a good fit because I've demonstrated behavior like this in the past. But if you're using certified science and psychology, with a percentage, a validity score that shows it's accurate and reliable, then those candidates usually show their fit. But I just wanted to say, if you're being asked to do those things as you apply, they're not a bad thing. They're a great thing if you have access to the results. But if they don't share the results with you, it's hard to help you. You know what I mean? It's hard to help you know what to reinforce or develop.
So Scott, you would recommend, if I'm going to be taking those, that I would then ask for the results. So I would say, hey, I'd love to take this and I want to see the results.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Because
question. Are you recommending like doing this before interviewing, so you have that assessment, so you have an idea, or waiting for it to be like part of the interview?
Well, my clients that I bump into just in the services marketplace or on LinkedIn, they use their results as part of their interview strategy. They talk about their subconscious and conscious states, right, of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about certain things like that you wouldn't know or have language for otherwise. But most people don't have access to those tools until they're applying, and they don't understand why. I just wanted to say that they're using those tools because the cost of a bad hire is about $20,000 to fix.
Okay.
So
Can you recommend any off the top, or have any that you recommend?
If you connect with me, I can
Mhm.
provide you DISC Plus and Attribute Index.
Okay.
Just for having me in this meeting, I'll provide that to the people that are in here. I'll send that to you. It's about 80
Wonderful.
pages. There's a lot to it, but it's all the
Mhm.
answers. And we use it to strategically advise who's the best fit and why. And we have language to describe things they only have suspicions about. But one of the things that they would be looking for is, does Scott believe in Scott?
Mhm.
Or does he come into the interview and it's all a show? And I'm impartial. I don't think that you have to have great self-esteem to be a great employee.
Right.
But I'm just saying that a lot of people want to have confidence,
Mhm.
and they might overplay that card. And the consequence for that is the perception can be arrogance. One is rewarded, the other is punished.
Mhm.
So to navigate that line clearly, we worry about accuracy. So we use tools that, two of them are more than 100 years old, and the other one is coming up. It was a Nobel Prize nominee in 1973. That's the Attribute Index. But if you message me, I'll share that. I did send a message to our great host. I asked to connect. I'll provide those tools. It's not a problem.
Fantastic. Well, Scott, I want to underline something here, which is brilliant that you're bringing up, which is, given how much it costs to have a bad hire and how on edge people hiring are, that if I'm in an interview and I'm bringing up my insecurities or my challenges, and I can acknowledge my skill gaps and say, hey, this is a thing I'm developing here. I think this is a great fit for it. What kind of development programs do you have here? And I can just bring that in, and people see, oh shit, he's aware of himself. We're already he's opening the door to this conversation that I normally dread having with people. And so just by taking ownership of that is brilliant.
Versus getting defensive or saying, I don't have weaknesses. There's nothing I could do better. Well, how about humility for
totally.
one?
So this is great.
Scott, I'd appreciate it. Could you send those to George Donald and I as well? I would really be interested in seeing.
Yeah,
the DISC I'm familiar with. I haven't used the attributes index, so that sounds kind of interesting. So I'd like to hear.
Here, I'll put my email address. Also, my email address is there and my profile. Because if you're here, I'll have access to what I can see in comments, but I won't have direct connections. But if you can send me a message, I can provide that.
Scott at Creative. Okay.
creative-cc.com.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
This is great. So this is Career Lab Wednesday. Every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central, we are here. We love it when you can jump in, like Rihanna, Sebastiano, Joe, Samantha, Scott, James, and we work with us one-to-one here. If you're not able to, you can always type your questions in, and Jane Coletta will get those over to us. We'll do our best to get to those questions. And we have been all across the board today in terms of, our career, asking powerful questions of ourselves and of the people who might be interviewing us, and getting into what it really takes to have our career be a vessel for us to reach our potential. That is ultimately what we look at here. Is this job, is this position helping me develop my skills in an ongoing way? What's the capacity here in this job? Is this a good fit for me in terms of stretching and learning and growing? Research shows that it's learning and growing that makes us happy. So it's not just having security, that we need that first, if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but we want to be in a place that is challenging us in the ways we want to be challenged. And so I don't know, it's a real blessing to be here with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Dr.
all.
Gordon Medlock, thank you for your expertise.
Great to be here.
And shout out, Scott, thank you so much for your input. Looking forward to staying connected with you.
Yeah.
And we will see you next week. Dr. Medlock, anything you want to add in closing?
Have a great week. You take care, guys. Okay, take care.